Hello, this is Bruno Backer. I'm going to talk about the chromatic scale today because it's something that often comes up in various discussions, chromatic passages, chromatic scale, chromaticisms, etc., etc. So I thought I would do probably a couple videos about the topic, maybe more. We'll see how that goes. But for now, I'd like to simply talk about the scale itself. So the chromatic scale, as you probably already know, who knows, it's that one scale that is consisting only of half steps. So if I were doing it on A, for instance, I would just go in half steps like this, and then simply I could move up on the same string. Okay, so it wouldn't hurt actually to do it like that on one string. Like here, I'm starting from this A on the third string, and just move like this. Pay attention to the transition because that's the tricky part. Okay, so you can go up and down like that. Nothing really extraordinary here. This is just the basic scale moving in half steps only. So if we were trying to play the scale in position, if I'm starting with my A again, so I'm going to show you different fingerings, but this, for now, I'm going to start with the first finger on the big string on the A. So I can move up like this with my half steps. Now here, my next note up should be a C sharp. And if I'm looking at the position that I'm in, I basically can see two options, either the C sharp that is here, or the C sharp that would be on the 4th fret, now on the 5th string. So that's the one we're going to choose in this case. So we're going to go this way. I'm going to get my C sharp here. However, I'm immediately moving up a fret back into my original position. And then I continue. So here I have D, D sharp, E, F. So here, same thing. For the F sharp, I'm going to extend the first finger onto the 4th string, get my F sharp, and simply move again up a half step back to my home base. So what I'm calling my home base, in other words, is these 4 frets. So whenever I needed a note that was not within those 4 frets, I was using my first finger. So here's what happens if I were moving all the way up to this A. So that's going to be 2 octaves total. So moving up, coming back in position, up, coming back in position, up, back in position. Now here I don't need to move up because that's how the guitar is tuned. And then one last time, up, back in position. Okay? So again, slowly. Okay, here are my 2 octaves. That is important to go back to the position, because if I don't do that, look what would happen. I could go up this way, I could get my C sharp here, and if I stay in that new position, what actually happens is I'm creeping down. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm not staying in position. See, I ended up all the way up here at the 1st fret, and then I have one more string here. What I was showing you was allowing me to stay within my middle position here, basically going in and out of those 4 frets. Now, the important thing though is this was going up. So ascending, when I'm going up my chromatic scale, I'm using my first finger. However, if I want to go back down, remember I had arrived at this A with my first finger. So instead of going back down this way to the A flat, or G sharp, you can call it whatever you want, I'm going to extend now my 4th finger to this G sharp. And then I'm going to go back down a half step, back in my position. And then I can continue this way. So here there's no need to extend. But here, for the B, I need to extend with my fourth finger. I'm coming back down a half step with the same finger, and I'm going to do that again until I get to the last string. Okay, so going back up is this. However, going back down, so that's the one little tip to remember. When the scale goes up, we extend the first finger. When the scale goes down, we extend the fourth finger. The challenging part here is when we switch strings, because what you don't want to do is something that would resemble short. Actually, this is something you could do. Okay, let me erase that. You could actually play all your notes short. Staccato, which is actually a good exercise. It's a good exercise because you learn to not press too hard on your strings. So that's one thing. You can play all the notes staccato, but what I was playing earlier was playing all the notes tenuto, meaning each note is held until the very next note happens. Now here's the challenging part. When I extend here, I want to make sure that this note, the last note on the big string, isn't too short. In other words, I don't want long, 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 short, long, 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 short, long, 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 short, long, long, etc. See what happens? If I'm not holding on while extending, this last note is going to be shortchanged. Now, we always are going to hear a little something, but if we are aware of the transition, at least we can try to limit the damage. So make sure your notes are nice and long and as even as possible. So when you transition here, it almost sounds like you were on the same string. So here I made a little noise because I lifted. Of course, the plain strings are going to be a little quieter because we're not going to hear the little squeaky thing with the strings, with the wound strings. But just think of the time you're spending on each note. So don't release your finger too soon. Now, there's a lot of things we can do in terms of exercises with this. I was playing everything in downstrokes. But what I could do is play, of course, eighth notes. So I would use the alternate picking. Now, I'm doubling every note. And descending, the same thing would be. That's a good warm-up exercise, by the way. So I was doubling every note in alternate picking, but of course I can alternate pick without doubling every note. So I would get this. Okay, and descending. So something like that. You can also triple your notes. So. Right. The triplets I was using here, I was going down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. But I can go down, up, down, up, down, up. I can. In other words, I can stick, I don't know what I just said, but I might have said something wrong. What I mean is we can strictly alternate pick, which means that every other beat I'm going to have an upstroke. So it would give me this. So if I count, I have 1 and a 2 is upstroke, right? I start with a downstroke, 1 and a 2 and a 3, now is a downstroke, like that. So I'm basically going back and forth between a downstroke on a downbeat with an upstroke on a downbeat. And the way I was doing it earlier, by having 2 consecutive downstrokes, I was always falling with a downstroke on my downbeats, right? So again, the first time I did it was like this: down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, which gives me etc. And the second time is down, up, 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 down, like that, which gives me etc. So do those things very slowly. You can also do 4 times. Etc. So now I was going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, we should count 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, like this, right? And that would be thinking 16th notes without playing each note 4 times. So anyway, you can come up with a whole bunch of variations on this. What I want to show you now is, though, something else. I was starting my pattern with the first finger every time. Well, what if I started it from the same note now with my second finger? What's going to happen is I'm going to stick to the same concept. So I'm running all my fingers up to the 4th fingers, and then I'm going to extend with the first finger, come right back in position. Basically, it looks exactly the same, except that I started and ended with the same second finger. See, I started with the second finger, and now my home base is basically these 4 frets, starting from fret 4. So I have 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I start with the second finger on my A, I'm going to end with my second finger 2 octaves higher. And same thing going back down. See, I ended with that second finger again. If I started with the third finger now, same exact thing, and I can expect to finish my pattern with the third finger 2 octaves higher. Look. See, third finger. And if I go back down, third finger. And as you probably figured it out, if I started with the 4th finger, now I'm gonna cover these 4 frets. Of course, I'll have to extend all the way up or down, I could say, to the 1st fret, but I'm still expecting to end my pattern with the same 4th finger. So basically, no matter what finger you start with, you should expect to end the pattern 2 octaves later with the same finger that you started with, up or down. And if you don't, that's a sign that you somehow messed up along the way, and you probably extended the finger and forgot to shift back to the original position. So this is showing you with the 4th finger here. So I'm extending all the way up here and then come back in position. 1st fret, back in position. 1st fret, back in position. Now I'm not going to extend, and then last time, 1st fret, back in position. Okay, now descending. So this is a little more challenging because the frets are wider, so that means you need to stretch a little more. But that's basically it. So all those exercises, try them in different areas of the neck. You can also do just 1 octave, like say if I wanted to do 1 octave starting from the 4th string, right? So I have shift once here. So come up with different things, but it's nice to at least figure out the concept of shifting with either the first finger or fourth finger, depending on the direction, and then also get your ear used to hearing all those notes moving chromatically. Because down the road, you'll see that you could use that on, on anything. Like if I have, say, even just a minor 7 chord, I could even come up with some line like this, which has, I started with the root, and I'm playing all my notes. But it depends on all the notes of the chromatic scale. But it depends how I time it. So in this case, I landed on a strong chord tone. I landed on the 5th. But all the notes in between, some of them did not exactly fit the chord, officially speaking. But we'll talk more about that. So for now, just figure out the fingerings for your chromatic scale in position, and we'll continue from there.